Here we are, another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, affordable housing on three fronts, how a $1 million donation is going to help Redwood communities fast-track some projects. Mayor Alex Nuttall talks about what the city, provincial, and federal governments are doing, and we learn more about a new player, community builders, and how they're helping. Been a year since we were hit by that nasty ice storm that left some of us without power for a week or more and caused millions of dollars in damage. What did we learn from it, and how has it prepared us for the next emergency situation? Is Shakespeare timeless or troubling? Local Jewish groups have an event coming up that looks at how historically significant works contain anti-Semitic elements, in this case, the Bard's Merchant of Venice, and how we can learn from it. And we have another in our series of interviews with this year's winners of Barrie Chamber of Commerce Women in Business Awards. Hang tough. We get the conversation started after this. This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely, joined again by Carolina Belmaris and Timothy Kent from Redwood Communities, which is armpit deep in providing affordable housing to communities in Simcoe County. Wasn't expecting to see you guys back here for an update for another couple of months, but when you have good news, why wait? And you have some really good news to share.
We certainly do. We had something pretty fantastic and unheard of happen recently, and we couldn't wait to share it with you guys.
All right, share it. I'm all ears.
So we had a local investor decide to come and invest $1 million into community housing bonds with Redwood.
That is awesome. And that's the key here is investment. It's
Correct.
Not a donation, it's an investment, as we've discussed before. But let's go over that again.
Absolutely. What that means is that, like you say, this is very much an investment. And what this means is this investor actually purchased the 4 different bonds for young relatives and gave them as a gift. So this is an amazing legacy gift in the sense that now these young relatives get to make an annual interest on their investment. And at the end of their term, that core investment amount of $250,000 for each comes back to being all theirs. And so that's how it's so different from a donation, in that an investment, we get to use the money for the time of the term. While we have it, we get to do amazing things happen in the community. And at the end of the term, the money goes back to you.
And this comes on the heels of another huge investment and offering from somebody else who put in $250,000 and offered to match another $250 from anybody else.
That's absolutely right. And that was our matching campaign sponsored by Dr. Brian Morris. And that was a huge success as well. It brought us in $140,000 in new investments from 14 different people in the community who are now literally invested in the wellness of our community and how Redwood is able to do these projects fast, efficiently, and for the betterment of our cities.
Now, $1 million sounds like a lot of money. How far can you stretch that in what you're doing?
Yeah, stretch. That's the key to this one. It's fantastic, actually. It really gives us a great start on many of the projects and units that we were already working toward. And so it's going to allow us to get to building permit and into construction much quicker than if we had to sit around and wait for some funding agreement from different government levels. Now, that doesn't mean that we still don't make use of various funding agreements from different government levels, but what it allows us to do is get the project started and get things going, and then we can backfill that. Then we can pay those bonds back out, pull them back out of that project, and use them again to do the exact same thing on another project without having to go out and continually trying to find $1 million. So it's like a circular economy. We can just keep using it over and over again. But what that means for us is we can get 5 units started in Barrie very quickly. We've got 5 units in Arroyo that we can now get started on right away. And we've got our project in Midland as well. That we just got site plan agreements for, which is great. It's been approved, and now we're doing the technical drawings to get ready to go to building permit, and hopefully we can start construction on that in the fall. So we've got 3 projects right away within Simcoe County in 3 different localized communities that we can start probably this year in terms of the construction.
And how quickly after you get started will they be available?
Yeah, so what's really cool about these projects is we are utilizing modular technologies. So we're going to be able to start constructing them inside a factory. And then one day when they're built, they show up to site and get put together, and it's called stitching. So they stitch it all together and put in all the other pieces like elevators and stairs and stuff that need to be there, and then just do the finishing touches and the exterior cladding. And so what that means is you might not see a lot of action on site in the community where it's actually being constructed for a while, other than some earthworks and some foundation work. And then all of a sudden there'll be a building there, within 2 or 3 weeks after that foundation is completed. And typically in a typical construction process, it could take months to actually build it on site. But it's much less disruptive for neighbors when you're a neighbor to a construction site if it only lasts for a couple months instead of 18 to 24 months. So.
That's terrific. Now, those are current projects or soon-to-be projects. Do you have others in mind as well that some of this money could go to?
Yeah, we do. Another project here in Barrie locally is an 80-unit seniors project on some land that we are getting from a church, actually. And so that church is going to remain. We're going to do 2 buildings of 40 units each and have some community space at it. We're going to have a Montessori school there, and our hope is a little fresh food market as well. And it's in a nice residential area, so I hope that that'll be an added service to the greater community in that area. And that's a project that's going to take longer because it's much bigger. But this allows us to keep that thing moving forward and getting to a building permit ready stage.
This is all great, but it really scratches the surface, doesn't it? You need to keep going. The $1 million investment is great, but you still need more.
Absolutely. And just speaking of churches, it's really interesting. I really want to note we have actually Midhurst United Church. As a church, as a group, they are investors in our community housing bonds. And so I want to throw it out there to think out of the box, because maybe even your congregation, this is something that can be done as a group. This is something that we want to purposefully make available and accessible to the community to be able to contribute and to actually put your money into creating the solutions that you want to see in your community.
Let's let everybody know how they can get involved. Where do they go? Where they can get information?
Our website is redwoodbuilds.ca. And me personally, you can reach me at carolina@redwoodbuilds.ca.
Thanks for coming in. Congratulations on this new milestone, and we'll look forward to having you back in a couple of weeks, I guess.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Federal and provincial governments in the city of Barrie are also working to get more housing to market. Mayor Alex Nuttall bringing us up to speed through Barrie 360's Ian McLennan.
News conference last week, Premier Ford was in Mississauga talking about affordable housing with Mayor Parrish. He acknowledged a couple of mayors that are doing things in his I'm paraphrasing, to home construction to get it moving again. We know the industry is struggling. Why was your name mentioned? What is Barrie doing that some other municipalities are not?
Well, I think actually, there's a number of municipalities that are trying new things and different things. And so what Barrie's doing is different than anywhere else. What we've done with development charges is we've said, okay, if you're going to hit a threshold of 20% affordable units inside of your purpose-built rental building, then we'll waive development charges on the entire development. When you pair that with what has been waived with regards to the HST on these developments, all of a sudden they become able to be built, able to be developed, and they can move forward. So what that's transpired to inside of the city of Barrie is around 2,000 new units that will be starting construction in the next 30 days. Those are 11 buildings, I believe. It might be 12. I'm going on memory. And that's going to deliver somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 new affordable housing units in the city as well, which would be by far the most and the record we've ever done, but like probably 3 or 4 times the best year we've ever had, and the first real move forward on affordable housing in 20 years.
Why was it necessary to do this?
I think the entire market's toast, and I think there's 2 things that we need to crack here. When you talk about affordable and attainable housing and the need for housing that individuals can afford to get into, first-time home buyers, seniors, downsizing, these are the two areas where I know we've chatted before that we want to target. I think that that's the first side, is the housing itself needs to be attainable and affordable. The second side is now, because there are no homes being built, our trades are without work. It's becoming more and more difficult to not only afford the high prices, but any prices, because all of a sudden, Barrie, which has a major construction industry, and certainly down into the GTA surrounding Toronto, I think you see the same thing. The trades are not seeing the same amount of work that they have for the last 15 years. And so where there was a massive, I would say, increase in the amount of work in the trades between 21 and 23, it's fallen off the side of a cliff. And so we need to really make these adjustments, one, to bring housing to market, two, to make sure that those who live and work in our area and the construction industry have jobs to go to on a daily basis.
Now, just for people who aren't familiar, they hear DCs a lot, development charges. What are they used for? Why are they? They are important.
Yeah, they're super important. So what development charges do is they pay for new roads to be put in. They pay for the sewers to go under the roads, the water to go under the roads. They pay for the capacity to be built at the water and the wastewater treatment plants. They pay for new libraries and rec centers. And so what we've tried to do with our DC changes to date is to really focus them on high rise, where taxation is actually in a positive position, versus single family, where the city loses money on each single family dwelling. And what that does is it really does compensate the city by having that density in these taller buildings. So to qualify for this program, you had to be over 5 stories and 20% affordable housing, because that's where we see that kind of balance and threshold move into a positive situation versus a economically negative situation on single family usually.
So those development charges obviously protect residents, so they're not paying those, for the new roads and what have you. But is there a loss here when you're giving a break on development charges? Are you going into reserves, or how's that? How are you making up for that?
Well, no, these buildings are all being built on existing infrastructure. So if you look at the buildings, Sophia Street in downtown Barrie, it's already there. When you look over at Little Lake and Jamie Massey Way, the sewer's already there. It's already been put in. When you look at the YMCA site, it's already there. It's been put in. So, all of these items have already been produced and put in the ground. If we were going into a new area, let's say in North Barrie or South Barrie in the annexation areas where there isn't an existing pipe built, I think we'd be facing a little bit of a different story. But because these are infill projects, they are, being done in a way that's going to have a financially beneficial position for the city, just based on the taxes alone, even without the development charges. One thing that we've been doing inside of this is 50% of the dollars that are collected in taxation in these buildings will go back into the development charge account to make it whole. But there's no actual, let's say, money being expended by the city in order to allow these developments to happen, because they are situated in places where you already have the pipes, you already have the capacity and the roads in place. And so that makes it a different a different formula than perhaps if we went into the new areas and tried to do the same.
So I know you used your strong mayor's power as well in this area, but I recall in 2023 the premier was in Barrie, $6.3 million. Barrie exceeded its housing targets. I think it was 1,809 over 1,687. Does that matter anymore? I mean, the goal was 1.5 million homes over I think it's 10 years. Everything seems to just gone off. It seems to have gone off the radar now.
Well, I think it's fallen off a cliff, and I don't think this is a Barrie thing. Well, I know it's not a Barrie thing.
It's a national thing.
And I'll come back to the housing in a second. I just want to give you an example of what we are seeing right now. So last year in 2025, it was a record year for institutional development, literally record by far, probably 50% higher than we've ever seen before. Record year for commercial development, by far, 50% higher than we've ever seen before. Record year for industrial development, by far, probably in the last 50 years, right? So we're seeing a ton coming on the job side. We're just seeing no homes being built. And so, those young people that are coming home from university, just graduated, there actually are jobs now starting to open up or will be opening up over the next 6 to 12 months because of, as these buildings finish. But we're not seeing the homes being built because that market just fell off the side of a cliff. So I think that it's difficult to look at the 1.5 million homes and say we're going to achieve it. Having said that, our goals, we missed our goals in 2024 by, let's say, I think 50 or 60 units would have got us into the program. So I think we ended up somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,600 units. I'm going on memory. Maybe it was 1,580, but we needed to do 1,650 in order to get the qualifying of the dollars. In 2025, we were literally 700 units and needing to do over 2,000. Okay. So 2026, we've made this change with this DC program, one that's going to make itself whole. And we're going to see somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,500 to 2,600 units total this year between housing starts by themselves plus our 2,000 units in this rental program and affordable housing program. When you put those things together, we're going to exceed our goals by 400 or 500 units this year. So the goal of these DC changes, the goal of the HST being waived between the feds and the province, huge move, that will spur more home building to take place. And if it's okay with you, I just want to add one point here. We've been focusing on getting affordable housing, rental affordable housing to market. We're going to have more affordable housing start in 2026 than we have individuals living in or near homelessness. When you look at those 670 or 80 people, there's couch surfing, there's people living in parents' basements that's probably not the best, housing fit for them. There's people who are living in shelters. There's people living in the motel program. More units are starting in 2026 than there are any of those situations combined in the city of Barrie. So you put that together and you go, okay, finally we can see the path where anybody who needs to have an affordable using unit, who needs that extra support, will be able to access it.
What do you define as affordable?
Affordable in Barrie is defined by the province of Ontario. Right. And CMHC, the federal government, recognizes that province as well on this. So in Barrie, it's somewhere around, I think it's 1,000 to 1,100 for a bachelor. It's 1,500 for a one-bedroom and 1,700 for a two-bedroom, 1,800 for a three-bedroom. And that is just like a round number. It could be $50 higher or lower. That's the last time I looked at it. That's what it was.
Finally, Mayor, we're going to wrap it up just to acknowledge it's been a year since the ice storm, and the province has, I believe, provided up to $26 million. To cover cleanup costs. When you hear that number, it really puts in perspective the damage that was done to Barrie.
Yeah, it was an immense amount of damage. I mean, it was far more than we ever dreamed that we would have seen in damage. Huge impact on our tree canopy, huge impact on our parks, huge impact on private property throughout the city, cars destroyed, streets blocked. And the way the community came together was amazing to get through it. But to see the province step up and give us $26 million to make us as close to whole as we're going to get on that cleanup is huge. It would be probably one of the largest transfers the city's ever received from upper levels of government. And I'm guessing it's one of the largest transfers the province of Ontario has ever given in terms of emergency response.
What did you take away, and the people at City Hall too, in terms of, because like the county of Simcoe did, they looked back and went, okay, what worked, what didn't work, or where do we need to improve upon? Obviously, you've done some reflection.
Yeah, I think first of all, everyone can attest that we were up and running in 48 hours, and most of the surrounding area in the rural parts were weeks. The city of Aurelia unfortunately had some major issues as well. The takeaways for the city directly were we've got to make sure that we have those backup generators working. They did work. They were phenomenal, making sure that our water and wastewater was taken care of. Those are the two most important pieces. And when it comes to, our partners, I think that Electra they had everyone up in 24 hours. I think it was, maybe it was 36, but it wasn't 2 days. Unfortunately, we didn't have the same response time from InPower, so that's something that we've asked them to work on with us. We don't want to have a major difference between the services received on one side of Mapleview Drive and on the other side of Mapleview Drive. There should be some consistency, and there should be levels of service and agreements in place that ensure that everyone is able to get back to life as soon as possible.
And let's spin that off now to the County of Simcoe and Head of Emergency Management, Grant Durfee, who has spent a lot of time since the ice storm reviewing procedures and protocols to ensure we're even better prepared for the next emergency. Here again, Ian McLennan.
Tell me what your day was like when you first got wind of the extent of the destruction caused by the storm.
We had started planning for the storm a couple days ahead of time, probably around March 26th. We knew it was coming in. We started preparing. But really on that Sunday morning when the storm, really we saw the impacts from it. It was probably about dozens of calls coming in all at once on my cell phone and looking out my own window and just seeing trees and ice everywhere. And it took a little bit of time to understand that this wasn't just this localized to one area. But it was spread throughout the entire county, the amount of destruction that we saw.
Well, you couldn't have predicted the amount of destruction within the county. You were given a heads up by Environment Canada, unlike a tornado, which can hit out of the blue. Tell us how the county, prepares for something that, like that residents are aware that the county is trying to stay on top of, potentially dangerous situations.
Absolutely. So at the county, we maintain a really robust emergency management program. We work extremely closely with all of our member municipalities as well as the separated cities, and we every year go through multiple scenarios, anything from a little discussion around the table about maybe a bit of a storm to a full scale where we have people out on the road, we have people in an emergency operations center communicating in a chemical release, and we go through all kinds of different scenarios. And to inform that, we also do what we call a risk assessment every year. And we go through over 70 different categories of hazards and risks, and we try to rank and identify where those exist in the county. So not only can we plan for them, we also look to see what we can do to try to prevent or at least mitigate some of those risks as well.
With the ice storm situation, a lot of people lost access to cell phone service because of hydro wires down, etc. What did you do? What did your team do on that first day when you were beginning to gather information and you were hearing from other municipalities within the county?
Yeah, so that first morning on that Sunday, there was definitely some confusion around that communication. Some areas had cell service, some didn't. Different providers were up in different areas. The first tries where a lot of people were to get into the office. I tried for about an hour and a half or so that morning, and I wasn't able to make it in. But thankfully, we do have some backup communications in place. So, for example, I was able to use satellite internet, use that to do Wi-Fi calling, and then connect to both our county folks as well as starting to make those connections to the local municipalities to really get that big picture of what's going on and where and who are feeling the effects of the storm.
And if I'm a resident, whether it's Oro-Medonte or Romero, some of the municipalities that were hit really hard, who are the players at the table?
Yeah, so for every municipality, they have what's called a community emergency management coordinator. So that exists at all levels. So at the county and that upper tier role, and at the local municipality, they have one too. A lot of times it's through the fire department. They're our go-to contacts on a day-to-day basis whenever we do plans. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this type of response. We had everybody at the table. So our local emergency management coordinators, all kinds of different departments from the county, the local level, and the province did come in with hundreds of volunteers who helped us out in various aspects, be it knocking on doors, providing some food at the shelter, or doing drone observations of damage. It really was a cohesive effort to try to get that response underway.
How do you divide all the role playing in terms of, you don't want overlap either. So what is the role of, say, Oro-Medonte as opposed to the county when trying to work to, fix this situation?
So we developed really good processes during the ice storm where the county worked as a bit of a coordination body. So every municipality, every local municipality knows their area best. Being at the county level, I will never know it as well as a resident of Oro or resident of Romero. So we let those local municipalities provide the biggest impacts or the most important requests that they might have. We would then aggregate that from all of our different municipalities at the county level and then work with the province to try to determine where can we get these resources from. Is it using our mutual aid agreement? So maybe a municipality in the south can come up and help, which many of them did. Is it going out to county resources, contractors, or maybe deploying volunteers through Ontario Corps to try to help with it? That way it wasn't 10 people all making the same request. We could really try to find efficiencies to get the most help to the most people as quick as we could.
Once you got a chance to catch your breath, everybody did. In terms of reviewing what went right and where things could have been improved upon, I don't want to use the word wrong because everybody's trying their best. So let's look at the pros where your training, everybody's training came into play, and you look back now and go, yeah, we were right to do that.
So the one great thing, or one of the great things about working in the county is we have really good relationships with all of our local municipalities. So when we went to get calls together, we started very early Sunday morning. Everybody showed up. So even if they were in some of the southern municipalities who weren't as affected, they still showed up to see how they could help the others. And having that familiarity ahead of time is really key. We have a saying in emergency management that you don't wait for the emergency to hand out business cards. You need to know who else you're dealing with beforehand, who has what resources, who can provide what supports, and having that in place ahead of time really helped us speed up that assistance once we realized how widespread the impacts from the storm really were.
And in terms of going back to the drawing board, so to speak, and, reviewing as you did, and you presented to County Council just recently about the pros and cons. So where would improvements need to be made or enhancements or certain changes?
Absolutely. So in every disaster, every emergency response, there's always pros and cons. There's always things that you can do better in the next emergency. And so we want to make sure, regardless of how big or small it is, we do a thorough what we call AAR, an after-action report. And this looks at everything across the emergency. So for the ice storm, we worked with an external consultant who conducted interviews for us, reviewed all of our documentation. We met multiple times, both internally with the county as well as with local CEMCs, and we conducted a public survey just this past fall where we got well over 1,000 responses, which we were very happy with, trying to gather all of that information, both what went well and what we can improve. And what we found was 32 different specific projects across 4 areas where we could do some improvement. So those areas included public education and preparedness, coordination, communications, equipment, as well as technology and information management. One of the primary ones, for anyone who lived around the Orillia area, probably saw the Orillia Recreation Center, which was set up as a shelter throughout there. That shelter functions through the work of many different organizations, including the county, the city, and numerous NGOs. It's non-governmental organizations. So the Red Cross was there, Salvation Army, Global Medic, and they all really helped to make that center function. Out of the ice storm, we've really looked at how can we provide greater resources here should that come up again. So we've more than doubled our capacity in terms of our stored cots, pillows, blankets, other things to stand up that type of center. And we've increased the number of staff that we cross-train who are normal county staff that can then be deployed to that center should this situation occur. That way we're more ready for that large number of people that we saw during the ice storm.
Now, in terms, you talked about public education. Obviously, the public has a role to play, maybe leading up to a potential situation and after. There was lots of warning about this ice storm. I know some of us sometimes look at it and go, yeah, it's not going to happen, or they've been wrong before. What critical role can the public play to prepare themselves and to assist their own municipality, where they live, in dealing with situations like that? There obviously is a role for the public.
Absolutely. So we always say that the preparedness for disasters really begins at somebody's house. And there's really 3 things that the public can do to try to be ready for these types of emergencies. The first one you touched on is knowing the alerts, knowing what alerts are in your area. So following Environment Canada, there's a couple apps that are out there. A few municipalities have their own systems. But making sure you pay attention to those and heed those, because if you don't recognize those when they come out, you're going to miss some key information. The next thing people can do is always being prepared with basic supplies in their house. We used to talk about 72 hours in terms of preparedness. With the ice storm, we saw well beyond a week where some people were without power. But making sure you have several days, food, water, medication, and any other essential supplies you need. So if something like this happens, you're not immediately stuck, but you have a few days for that relief to come through, for things to be corrected. And then lastly is knowing the hazards in your area. So not everyone across the county can experience the same hazards. Some areas are more prone to flooding, for example, if we look beyond an ice storm. So understanding what could impact your area, so how can you try to deal with that? So if there's, for example, large trees over your house, well, we know in an ice storm those can fall. So maybe looking at getting those cut back to try to mitigate that future damage should another storm come through here. So really knowing the alerts, having supplies, and knowing the hazards is what we want every person in the county to be able to do.
And a person who had to live through this disaster, whether it was general public or you folks front line trying to deal with it, when you stand back and look at it, I guess is it fair to say no matter how much planning goes into it, until you get thrown into it, you're really dealing with the unexpected? Like how the training's there, but you have to almost walk the walk.
Yeah, so really when it comes down to things like this, our planning and our training is just that jumping off point. It gives us a position to start from, but then we know something extra is always going to happen. During the ice storm, we talk a lot about the freezing and the power outages. There were also areas that suffered significant fires. There were areas that were at risk of severe flooding that had to be addressed. So with all of these other incidents that start to layer on, we really then have to be flexible and understand you have your base plan, you have your training, but it's really the professionalism of everyone involved to know how can we flex this as these new scenarios come up.
This is what Barrie's talking about from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely, joined by Alyssa Hanslip, who is the social chair at Am Shalom Synagogue, and Pamela Tinsky, who is involved with a Facebook group known as Jewish Mamas of Barrie. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having us.
You are here because you're bringing a very special event to the city, Shakespeareans. Yeah. And you're going to have to explain what this is all about, but it's a very, very important topic and a very, very important event.
So Shakespeareans is examining whether Shakespeare's work in the arts is timeless, classic, or if it's troubling as far as anti-Semitism. It examines the role of the arts in confronting anti-Semitism, and it's going to be facilitated by professional actors, blending the arts with learning. The event itself is April 19th at 2 p.m. at Am Shalom Congregation, which is the synagogue on Huronia Road.
And this is using the Merchant of Venice as an example?
It is, yes. So Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice is going to be the topic of discussion. However, it is not relevant whether or not you know anything about The Merchant of Venice.
Yeah, you don't have to be into Shakespeare. You don't have to be Jewish.
No.
You don't have to be into the theater. You just have to be interested and have an open mind and come to learn.
Correct, yes. So it's really just to examine how anti-Semitism can be portrayed in works of art. Shakespeare having one of the most controversial works of art in The Merchant of Venice with the character Shylock.
In The Merchant of Venice, it actually says that they use the word Jew in a derogatory way 37 times, as well as the audience is encouraged when they hear the name Shylock or they see Shylock on stage to boo him.
At the time that The Merchant of Venice was written, it was written back in a time where the Jews they had been expelled from England a long time prior. So when Shakespeare wrote it, it was from that lens. So it's very interesting how time has portrayed him, Shylock, in both as a villain and humanizes him. The event uses theater as a safe, thoughtful space to examine how harmful stereotypes are created, reinforced, and how we can dismantle them.
Now, have you seen this production before?
I have not. So there's a lot of information. It's a company that...
They travel.
They do travel to certain places, and one of our board members, family members, had attended one and reached out to him to say how phenomenal it was. So when I saw that, I thought it was a great opportunity to bring it to our community. Although our community has been, for the most part, wonderful. I have not felt a lot of anti-Semitism per se in my own experiences here in Barrie or in Orillia, because I do work in Orillia. But it is not here.
Because there are always corners where it rears an ugly head. It may not be as rampant as it is in other communities or larger cities, but there's still a presence there, and there's still a concern when we have certain situations happening around the world, and people start putting blame on a particular segment of the community without looking into it any further. They just start, jumping on a bandwagon.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is just by being silent is allowing anti-Semitism to happen.
You say that, it doesn't seem to be as big a deal here as other places. Have you seen a change one way or the other, even if slight change? Do you feel like you're making some headway, I guess?
I mean, we're seeing at all the different synagogues up here more police presence to protect us. And to be honest, we appreciate that, but we don't want to live in fear anymore. And we just want to be treated like every other community. We stand with all different communities, especially Shalom. We go do different events for the Iranian communities and Muslim. And we're always advertising in our newsletters about, equality and to invite all walks of life here, and we would love for that for our community.
I think a lot of the anti-Semitism that's out right now is based on misinformation and ignorance. And I think that if people took the time to really learn the facts and not blame people for their ancestors or the things that are happening in Israel currently, not to get political, but what's happening in Israel is happening in Israel, and I have no say in what happens in Israel, Gaza, Palestine. I don't have any say. So I think if people would just realize that we're human, we have, like Pam said, we just want to live our lives happy. So if people realize that we are just human and we don't speak for other groups of political parties or countries, we should all be getting along.
There was an old commercial years and years ago, decades ago probably now, for the phone company. Reach out and touch someone. And we don't do enough of that anymore, do we? We kind of hear something and then we shun people as opposed to reaching out and communicating and saying, what's really going on? Tell me how this affects you.
Yeah, and I welcome, if people have questions, I welcome the opportunity to debunk some of that misinformation that they've been taught. All they just need to do is ask, instead of assume and take what people have said as face value. A lot of the people, when you look at what's happening specifically in Toronto, there are so many podcasts, reels, videos out there that show that they don't even understand why they're protesting. And that's the problem. I think if people took the time to understand and really understand, there would be a lot less.
This is another step along the journey. Again, it's April 19th, 2 p.m. at the Am Shalom congregation on Huronia Road. There is an admittance fee, though, right?
There is, yeah. So the cost is $36 per adult. The student rate is $18. However, finance will never be a barrier to attend one of our events. If somebody has a challenge but would like to attend, please reach out to the Am Shalom congregation administration, and we will arrange for them to be able to attend.
And how do they reach out to you? Online, by email, by telephone?
They can contact us directly, 705-792-3949.
This Shakespearean event is in partnership with both Jewish Mamas of Barrie and Am Shalom, as previously stated earlier, and also in partnership with National Council of Jewish Women, Simcoe County. Our representative for that chapter is Helen, and PJ Library, Simcoe County, is represented by Ali.
Thank you so much for coming in today. Thanks for opening our eyes some more, or trying to open our eyes some more at the very least, and hopefully you get somewhere with this.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
People Making a Difference had Redwood Communities on off the top of the show, a leader on the affordable housing front. Now meet Brandon Day, founder and CEO of Community Builders, which kind of spun off of Redwood, but is taking a different approach to help. He's with Ian McClendon.
So tell us first off, what is Community Builders?
We started back in 2016, so we're celebrating 10 years come September. Which is something I'm very proud of. In the beginning days, we really were just trying to be an answer to the affordable housing crisis. So it kind of all came about through my own unhappiness in work, trying to find purpose as someone in the trades myself, just looking for something a little bit more meaningful. I was doing well in construction, but couldn't really connect to my own purpose, right? So at the time, I was working with Habitat for Humanity overseas as a global village leader and building homes for folks in different countries like Kenya and Zambia, El Salvador, Bolivia, Jordan. And I just really loved that. I was just enjoying because you're in the community, you're working, living, and eating with the folks that you're building with. And I thought, how can I replicate something like this when I go back home? So this isn't just the 2 weeks of vacation that I take a year. And so I was really searching when I got home for something. And, I was new to the Barrie area about 15 years ago. And I connected with a local charity called Redwood Park Communities. And I thought, oh, what a great fit for me. I've got some construction skills. I've got some business skills, and I can see what they're doing is making a difference in the community. Poverty and housing are not just issues overseas, but right here in our own communities. And it was really opening my eyes. So through volunteering with them, it opened my eyes even further to say, this is not just something that volunteers alone can tackle. Volunteers are incredible. We need more of them. God bless them all. But this is a real big issue that creates kind of an all-hands-on-deck mentality, right? And I thought to myself, what if we did something a little different? And at the time, I was working with Tim Kent, who's the CEO over there, and I posed him that question and said, what if we did something differently? And that was kind of the beginning of Community Builders. So we decided at that point to we prepared this little PowerPoint presentation and invited, 20 or 25 of our closest friends who are in the trades and trade adjacent to say, what do you think about this idea where we would get together and use our gifts and talents to try to create some affordable housing? And to my surprise, about, 8 or 10 of them said, we're in. So it just happened so quickly and organically. And at the time, there was a forgivable loan coming through the county of Simcoe that was helping homeowners to create legal second suites. So we thought, What a great place to start. We basically designed a turnkey solution to creating affordable housing, which, secondary suites are the fastest and cheapest way to create new units. We were helping homeowners through the design, the build, the permit process, all the things. And it was going really well at first. And then we saw this trades labor shortage coming. We weren't really feeling it at the time, but we knew it was coming.
And you've branched out. You're beyond Barrie too. Is that correct? You've been to Muskoka. You're regional. That's correct. Yeah. So we've been in Sudbury for just over 5 years now, and newly in Muskoka and Bracebridge and Sault Ste. Marie last year. Could you have imagined when you came home from you're overseas that you would branch out and are you living what you wanted to do? Is that the purpose? No, did you find your purpose too? I absolutely found my purpose. I've got a little recipe for that. It's look into the gifts and talents that you have, look out to the needs of the community and look up for guidance. And I've kind of kept that philosophy for a long time. But to answer your question. No, I had no idea Community Builders would be where it is today. It's really humbling, to be honest, because I felt like it's such a community-based grassroots solution. But the fact is that all these communities across Ontario and across Canada are struggling with the exact same issues. So we're really proud of this social enterprise model that we think works in different communities. The real piece that I've been, really blessed to find is incredible managing directors in each location who are those community champions who live and work and breathe their city, right? So that's a big piece of our recipe for success. And going back originally, you have trainees that learn in this program. Can you maybe explain a bit about that? Yeah, so we kind of have like a dual purpose organization. So the easiest way I can explain that is we have a skilled construction company, and we run that parallel with a trades training company. So every 12 weeks, we bring in 12 trainees in each location is the goal. And we train them in trades, everything from frame to finish. They get an experience mostly in residential construction. They get to learn in our training centers, safe place to learn. That's the first time they're handling tools. They're building within that training center with their mentors and the program team. Then they're out on real revenue generating job sites. So they get real hands-on experience, which is quite unique in terms of
trades training, much different than you would see in, I guess the educational,
right.
The typical educational institution, So
well, there's such a heavy focus by government on the trades anyway, with the shortage. How do individuals link up with community builders? And what age bracket, their education bracket? Where do you find the people, for lack of a better word?
That's a great question. So we work with such a diverse group. Ages, backgrounds, all the things. One of the prerequisites to our program is that you're experiencing some kind of barrier to employment. And that was really obvious to us when we were, looking at this trade shortage going, we need everybody in the trades. Where are the folks that aren't working? And what we found was that they want to work. They just need the opportunity. Sometimes that just looks like not having a license, and we help them get their license, or stigma that comes with having a criminal record, or women in the trades, newcomers to Canada. So we're working with everyone, and this year was really interesting. We had about 54% youth, up from 22% last year. So it's really telling us a story of where the needs are these days.
And they may be hearing, too, that there's a need for people in the trades, too, whether they're male or female, and there's opportunities and good
100%.
Money, too.
Life-changing opportunities, right? Because careers in the trades pay well. There's a solid future in them. And I should say our training program is a paid program as well, which is another thing that we found was a huge barrier to people's success. If you're going to ask them to stop their life for 3 months, they still need to be able to afford transportation. They need to afford their lunch. They need to pay their bills. So we found that's been a great piece to our success in terms of retention and getting people to graduation, of which we have a 90% success rate in getting people into full-time employment.
Now, in your impact report, you talk about give back projects. Can you give us an example locally and, what it means to community builders?
Yeah. So the Give Back Projects idea actually came out recently because, it's no secret the construction industry is not doing its best right now. There's very little housing starts. There's problems with tariffs, just generally not the best economy. So, like I said, a big part of our program is being on real hands-on jobs. So we needed to simulate some of that a little bit to make sure that our trainees get the best experience possible. So we reached out to some of the local nonprofits and charities in town and said, hey, do you have any projects that you need doing? Because, we all know that it's very hard to find the resources to do these kind of things. So we said, if you can afford the materials, we will provide the labor through our training program. And if you need additional services, then we'll figure that out with the construction team, with our skilled teams to help. But we found like such a great uptake. And again, a lot of the partnerships are reciprocal. Like we supported the new Youth Haven build, and often some of their folks are coming into our program. We work with the food bank and have renovated their office space, and we have a relationship with them where they provide a food program for our trainees and donate items. So we're finding it's just such a win-win situation for the community.
And for people outside of those that want to go down that path, is there another opportunity for the public to become involved with community builders? Maybe they've got a skill set, they're an independent tradesperson, but they want to give back too.
Absolutely. We have a lot of employment partners and people in the trades that come in and speak to our trainees, and they're connected to community builders, and we work together on projects. So if any of them are listening and they want to be part of the Give Back projects as well, you're free to reach out anytime. I think it's just such a great thing we can do for the community when needed.
It may sound maybe cliche, but you're doing more than just building with bricks and mortar. You're building a livelihood for a lot of people too.
Yeah, we're trying to be quite a holistic solution. So, back to the social enterprise model, I always say if you don't have a problem that you're solving, you're not a social enterprise, a community-based problem. And so for us, that's the affordable housing crisis and the trades labor shortage. And so how can we build the amount of housing Ontario and Canada and Barrie need without the people to build it? And if we don't have enough housing, where do folks live? Where do and how do they afford it without a job? So it's quite a very circular model that that I think is really great. If anyone out there is looking to join our trades training program, you can go to our website at www.communitybuilders.co. There's an application there, and we're running a new program every 12 weeks. We're also putting that out on our social media, LinkedIn, Indeed, all those things. And I also wanted to just say a huge thank you to our team who makes this happen every single day at Community Builders. All our funders, all our supporters, all our trades and employment partners, all our clients. It takes a village to do this work, and we're really thankful. Barrie's been an incredible city for us. Simcoe County, everybody's just contributing, and this is a big problem to solve, so we need those contributors. So I'm forever grateful for everyone who's involved, and just wanted to give everyone a big shout out. Too many names to say. And for anybody who's like looking to get involved further, one of the people always ask me that, how can I help? You can hire us. We're looking for jobs that our skilled teams can do, and we integrate training into that. So you're part of a bigger mission there, hiring community builders to do your construction projects. We're looking for employment partners to be hiring our graduates. Every 12 weeks, we're producing 12 employment-ready individuals who are eager to work for you. If you're a funder or a business, we're always looking for donations and corporate sponsorships, materials, all kinds of things. We have food programs. Any way that you think you could be involved, it's always worth reaching out to our team. And you can get to us through the website or at info@communitybuilders.co. Someone's happy to talk to you about that.
We continue our series of chats with Barrie Chamber of Commerce Women in Business Awards recipients, joined this week by Gillian Vincent, a senior private banker with BMO Private Wealth. You won in the entrepreneur category, so I think we should probably explain what that term means for those who have no idea, like me.
You're going to make me explain it.
You won the award.
Every time somebody asks me, I look it up on the
that's
thing
good to know.
and see what it means. I think entrepreneur is a lot like entrepreneur, but it's somebody that works within a company already. So I've been with Bank of Montreal I started as a teller at a university, so almost 20 years. In 2027, it'll be 20 years. And although I'm working within this corporation, the role that I'm in allows me to be really entrepreneurial. So I look after a portfolio of clients, but I also really enjoy mentoring some of the young women, particularly that are coming up. I enjoy working in the community, and my job allows me to do that. I'm board chair for Barrie Families Unite. Did a big fundraiser for them last year, which was exciting, which we'll be doing again. Save the date, November 27th. I get out in the community to lots of other fundraising events. I learned to golf learned, maybe a generous word, but started golfing.
Swing and swear?
That's right. Started golfing last summer and got to support lots of local initiatives. So I think that's, the best way. It's an entrepreneur working within a existing company.
Banking wasn't always where you were headed, though. I understand you were teaching English in some faraway land initially.
I was. That's funny. I actually went to Georgian College, took advertising and marketing, and then went to University of Guelph after that and studied psychology and sociology. And I had 5 years of post-secondary, and I thought, what am I going to do now? And then a friend of mine was teaching English in South Korea, and I thought, I could really use a big adventure after all this school. So, I went and taught English there twice for a year, and then another stint after that for 6 months, and came back living in Guelph, working at the cosmetics desk in Sears, where I worked through university and thought, okay, it's time for a big girl job, and literally just sort of thought the bank seemed like a place where somebody should wear a suit jacket and get a grown-up job. So I started there, and just, have been really fortunate to have some great mentors along the way, really helping me along.
Started as a teller 20 years ago.
That's right.
I'm trying to remember. Was it still passbooks then, and you had to write in them? Because that's what I remember from my first job, not as in a bank, but cashing my paycheck and standing in line for an hour on a Friday.
Yeah, we did have the passbooks. That's so funny. And I remember on pension day, all the seniors would come and sort of not believe the money was in their bank account until we updated their passbooks. And definitely that was a rough transition getting out of those. But Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier about what you've seen, the change in technology in your own role, and absolutely it's the same in banking, just, ABM machines and online banking.
Deposit slips, withdrawal slips.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'd hate to be in the branch on a day when the power goes out, but I don't have to do that anymore.
Well, you probably just close the door and wait till tomorrow, right?
I don't know.
Anyway, 20 years with BMO. Take us back. How did that start? How many rungs were on the ladder to where you are now?
I applied at all 5 of the banks, and Bank of Montreal offered me full-time, so that seemed the way to go. I was working still, working cosmetics at Sears, which lots of people listening to this won't even know what that means. But I was doing both jobs, and I remember I was sort of, 6 or 7 months in, and my manager said, you should apply for the next job. And I said, oh, you're not allowed to until you've been here for 18 months or something. And he said, no, I'm telling you to apply. And that really changed everything for me. I'm still in touch with that manager because he was sort of the first person that allowed me, the opportunity to think, what's next? What could be next?
Yeah.
And I moved into that next role and wound up on my first maternity leave. And when I came back, was about to come back, they said, will you do this job at another branch? I said, no, actually, I want the next job up. And they said, oh, okay. So then they gave me the next job up. And it's just been, I would say, a little bit of me asking or other people noticing. And I'm a really driven person. So I like goals.
How great is that, though, that you've been able to stretch this out within the same company? Because not many people can do that anymore. I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 50 years, and I can't count on 2 hands anymore how many places I've been. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But you've been given opportunities within the same company to move up and up and up, and you took advantage of that.
Yeah, it's funny, talking about department stores, nobody maybe remembers. I think that came from my dad. My dad worked with Eaton's and had a very similar path where he started sort of on the floor in the beginning and then wound up with Eaton's for, 20, almost 30 years, I guess, and was the VP of logistics running the big warehouse on the highway there before they went out of business. And he had so much pride. He had so much Eaton's pride. Like, there's still Eaton stuff all over our house. Like,
I bet.
Old pictures of delivery horse wagons with the Eaton's sign. And I don't know, I think I just caught that from him a little bit, this loyalty and pride of being with the same place. And I think, if you get treated well, which I absolutely do, and I know I do the job a little bit differently than my peers, but that's celebrated, and I feel really lucky.
All right. So how are you doing things differently than your peers that's made you as successful as you've been?
I think I spend less time in the office, for one. I'm really out in the community as much as I can be. I love meeting people. I work with wealth clients particularly, so I'm not necessarily meeting, the prospect everywhere I go, but I don't focus on that. I focus on the community and who I can help in any way, whether that's just introducing them to another colleague on my team or, giving them a bit of advice or introducing them even to somebody else in the community that is going through something similar. So I think that's led to, in terms of success in my role, great prospects coming to me, approaching me because they know who I am or because
they're seeking you out. You have a reputation.
I think so. I'm proud to say my biggest referral source is my existing clients, and that's
the best.
Yeah, there's really no bigger compliment than somebody I've been looking after for 10 years.
You've done a good job for somebody else, and they highly recommend you, and then you get to add more to your workload.
Yeah, that's okay though. Well, it's funny because I've been in this role for 10 years this year, and so as I mentioned, I have a portfolio of clients, and I've been working with a lot of them for that long. But in the beginning, when I was sort of green, I sort of took on whoever, and I didn't really understand. I didn't have the same understanding on how to run my book successfully as I do now, and now it's like, I have great clients. They're all a great fit for me. I'm a great fit for them. I might meet a prospect client and realize this probably isn't going to be a great fit and introduce them to one of my colleagues where I think it'll be a better fit. So So yes, while bringing on more clients means more work, if it's a good fit, it just works.
So, senior private banker with
right.
BMO Private Wealth almost sounds like a secret society. What is that exactly? You work with a lot of wealthy clients and businesses and such. So but obviously you're skewing that way. But senior private banker.
I know.
BMO Private Wealth.
It's like a Tina Turner song waiting to happen. So BMO Private Wealth works with the wealth clients in our community. Everybody knows the investment advisors and the investment counselors and all the brokerages that are associated with the banks. The banker is sort of the other side of the balance sheet. So I look after the day-to-day things for clients, but also borrowing. So most wealth clients are business owners, and there's a lot of complexity that comes with that. They'll have a complex structure set up. Usually they have a great accountant that's telling them how to set things up. So then they bring their finances to me, and I have to be able to sort of make heads and tails of it to put a lending application together, sort of show how the money flows. So a lot of complex lending is sort of my day-to-day stuff. And then at the core of everything we do is wealth planning. So we provide our clients with a comprehensive plan that says, hey, here's where you are today. Here's where you want to get to. Here's the tax efficiencies that we've identified along the way. Here's what your estate is going to look like, and there's some planning there we need to do. And here's the capital gains we need to consider along the way. Or we have clients that are interested in philanthropy, or maybe you want to use BMO Trust services. So it's really anything that could come with the complexity of wealth. We've got an expert on our team to help them navigate that.
Is it easy to shut this off at the end of the day when you go home? I just have visions of numbers dancing in your head. Good 24 question. Hours a day.
No, I don't think it's easy to shut off. I'm always thinking about my clients. I'm always thinking of maybe there's a play here or something that we could do. And of course, working in this community, I see them all over the place as well. So I wouldn't say it's easy to shut off, but it's also okay. I love what I do, and I feel like I get to make a difference for people, and that feels really good. So no, it's not always easy to shut off. I definitely take my phone on vacation, but I try and leave it in the room.
For shame.
But I try and leave it in the room when we're out for the day.
Do you have it away from the dinner table when you're eating, so you can't get it easily and check emails? That's a rule at my house.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's not with me 100% of the time it's in my purse right now, my work phone. So
good, because we don't want to hear it.
That's right.
Right now. What did it mean, first of all, to get this nomination and then actually capture the award?
I just got chills when you said it, because it was so exciting. To be nominated, first of all, is very, I don't know, it's overwhelming to think that somebody else sees you in a certain light. I think that was really special. And then even putting together the package, you need to provide a few letters of reference. So then asking people to write those letters and then reading those letters is a whole nother level of special. And they make my mom cry when I send her those letters. She always thinks, "Oh my goodness,
I did it right."
Yeah, so that's really special. And then to find out, to get that email that says I was one of the top 3 was, again, a whole nother moment where you sort of I think I was talking to my mom on the phone when that happened. I said, "Oh my gosh, you're never going to believe this." So that was really exciting, and I just sort of enjoyed it along the way. I mean, the other 2 finalists are both deserving people. So I think I was just really excited. I know that's so cliche. It's such an honor, privilege just to be nominated.
But be part of the group.
Yeah, but I mean, did I want to win? Obviously. But I was, but I mean,
at least you're honest.
I didn't get to where I am by not winning. I'll tell you that. But no, I mean, I really respect the other 2 women, both Farah and Melanie, that were in that group. So I was really thrilled to be a part of that. And then the big day comes, and my daughter was with me. My 15-year-old daughter sat next to me, and I just think how amazing it is that she knew so many of the women in that room already through various events, and she knew some of the other women that were finalists in categories. And I thought, what a privilege it has been in my life to be able to have my daughter sit in rooms like that. And that's how she's growing up, thinking that, seeing these incredible women. And that was really special for me. And then, when they called my name, I was really emotional on stage, which I was the only one who was that emotional.
I remember.
Oh, you were there?
I was there.
Oh, my goodness. So, I was feeling really emotional. And I had my phone with me, and I kept looking at my phone. I had in mind that if I did win, what I was going to say. And I really wanted to take the opportunity to highlight some local businesses and sort of a call to action to say, this is great that we're here and we do this, but I'd like to see more business owners on the other side of the table from me that are women. And I don't get to see that yet. And I think that I was wishing that I'd been able to find the words to say, this is great that we celebrate each other, but what's the next step? Like, let's support each other. Let's make a point of finding women-owned businesses that we can support. Take this another step further. So that's what I thought I'd say, but instead I blubbered.
Well, you just said it.
Yes.
So you got a second opportunity.
Yes.
Somebody or a few somebodies listening to this are going to be thinking, I think I need to talk to this woman. How do they get a hold of you?
Jillian Vincent at BMO.com, Jillian with a G. That's my email. You can find me on LinkedIn. I get a lot of people contacting me through LinkedIn. I think I actually have my own BMO website. If you just search me, they'll find my contact information there. Yeah, reach out. I'd love to hear from anybody. One of the things that happened last year sort of organically was this women's networking group that I don't want to say I formed. That sounds like I had more to do with it than I did, but I started getting a small group of ladies together, and that turned into, can I bring a friend? Can I bring a friend? Into a email list of over 100 women, and we just did a 5-course tasting lunch with a wine pairing at a local restaurant. We're doing a yoga relaxation at another business, and a few things going on. So I welcome anybody that's interested in coming out and meeting a group of women. I don't love using the word networking because it implies that there's a business aspect to it. It's can be networking, it can be socializing, it can be community, whatever you need it to be. Or it could be, if you work in the nonprofit sector and you want to get a bit of visibility for that, definitely reach out, and you're welcome to put you on that list.
How do you get on that list? How do they reach out to you for that?
Same thing. You can find me.
You're not hard to find?
I'm not hard to find, no. That's
Google her.
Google me. Google me, yeah. And just reach out.
Well, congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all your successes, because you've done so very, very well. And what's next?
Oh my gosh.
Have you thought about that? Like you found all these other things to do, and you kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Is there something else within BMO that, president?
No. As far as my career, this is really a destination role. You can get into leadership after that. And I love the idea of leadership, but I think I find other ways to scratch that itch. I like working with a portfolio of clients. I like what my job allows me to do, and then I, find other ways to be a leader within BMO or just within the community. So from a career standpoint, no. I mentioned at the beginning that we're going to run our fundraiser. It was the reception. We did it last year in November. We'll be doing it again this year in November. Really fun party. The entire thing was sort of formed after a wedding reception. So think dancing, and we had a toonie toss, and McDonald's delivered at midnight. So everyone was eating cheeseburgers. And,
love it.
Yeah. So it was really just meant to be a party. All the fun things about a wedding reception without the ceremony.
Without the wedding.
That's right. So it was a really great party. I know we had really great feedback. So that'll be coming in November. So save the date for that. And if I could do a little plug for Barrie Families Unite, we opened our thrift store this year. It's a stepping stone towards where we want to go. We need a much bigger space, and we're really focused on trying to find that. But in the interim, we're in this little space on Penetang Road. And we'd love for you to come visit. It's for anybody to shop at. Donations, we're taking all your donations as well. It's called Give Back Rack, so you can find them on Instagram or on Facebook or on the website, and it'll tell you what sort of donations that we're accepting. But again, it's for anybody to shop. I don't go there without buying something, and lots of great deals to find. But all of the money that the store is making will be going back into the community. So we support other organizations when they need to clothe their clients. So Busby and Elizabeth Fry and the Barrie Women Children's Shelter, we work with all them.
Is there anything you're not involved in?
No.
I feel like I've only met you for the first time today, but I feel like I should be running into you everywhere.
Some people say they do. No, I don't know. It's not hard for me. I don't know if it's. I don't know. I don't know the energy level or the. I know it seems like a lot. It doesn't to me. And it's all really rewarding.
It just comes naturally to you.
Well.
And I think from the conversation we've had and talking to you before we sat down to actually do this, you're passing that on to your kids too.
Thank you.
And that will serve them well.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to come in and come back for a coffee another time sometime when you have time.
Yeah.
Jillian, thanks so much.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks so much.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian for his input, to Logan Miller for his talents weaving it all together, Anthony Giordano for his help promoting it, and of course to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie 360, on our website, barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.